Hi guys, happy week 3 of distance learning and happy almost Friday. It's fun, every class it's happy almost Friday, but it's never happy Friday or happy Monday, so a little bit sad. Um, but we are going to continue on with factoring. So far we've done greatest common factor, we have done difference of two squares, and we've done factoring by grouping. Okay, so we're gonna still be using those methods if you see any of those pop up, but we're just adding to the different types of factoring we can do. So first thing, we're just gonna review finding factors, right? So it says list all the possible factors of the following two numbers. So for 12, right, we can write the factors here, 1 and 12, okay, 2 and 6, and then 3 and 4. So that's that rainbow method, right? 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4, so that we can list all the factors there. For negative 18, we're going to do the same thing. So 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Okay, and then all you would have to know about this is that, one of the numbers could be negative to go into that as well. So we're looking at now factoring trinomials. So difference of two squares was when we had a binomial. Factoring by grouping was when we had four terms. So quadratic trinomials are always in this form: ax squared plus bx plus c. Okay, so there's an x squared term, the coefficient of a, there's an x value with a coefficient of b, and then there's a constant term. So to kind of think about how we would factor this, we're going to first go backwards from foiling. So if we look at this first problem, if we were to FOIL this, okay, we would do x squared and then plus the outer terms plus the inner terms plus the last term. Okay, so our answer would end up being x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay, for the second one here, again, it would be the first terms, the last terms, the inner terms, and then the last terms here. Okay, so that would give us x squared plus x plus 6. Okay, so we can kind of use this to see if we see any pattern from how we're going from the factored terms to our trinomial. So if you look at your factored terms, we have x plus 5 and x plus 3. So look at 5 and 3, okay? How can you use 5 and 3 to get 15? How can you use 5 and 3 to get the 8? And hopefully what you're going to see is that you can multiply 5 and 3 to get the 15, so to get that last term, and you can add 5 and 3 to get that middle term. Okay, so if you multiply the last terms, that's going to give you 15. Okay, or the constant term, let's say. Okay, if you add the last terms there, that gives you the term with the coefficient of x. Okay, not x squared, just the coefficient of x. Okay, so when we're thinking about factoring, we kind of want to work backwards from here. Okay, so what are the factors of the last term, right? So like the 15, that add up to the middle term, which in this case up here would be the 8. Okay, and then we're going to write that in factored form. So for example, if we look at this quadratic trinomial, we're saying, okay, what are the factors of the last term here for? So what would multiply to 4 and what would add up to this middle term of 5. Okay, so what would multiply to the last term, what would add up to the middle term. So we're going to look at the factors of 4 here. So 1 times 4 would obviously multiply to 4, and 1 plus 4 would add up to 5. So now we're just going to take this and substitute it in. So we're going to have x plus 1 and x plus 4. Okay, and you could have switched that around. So we could have x plus 4 and x plus 1. You can also always check this by foiling. So it says, how could you check to see if your factors are correct? You can FOIL. So we could take this answer and again do outer. So x squared, okay, sorry, first, and then outer 4x plus 1x gives us the 5x plus the last gives us 4. Okay, so if you FOIL, you should be able to get the original trinomial. Okay, so I always like to make this t-chart. You don't need to do that, but I always kind of like to look at it and say, okay, what multiplies to negative 21, because you always want to take the sign in front of it, and what adds to negative 4. So again, you can just kind of list your factors here. So 1 and 21, 2 doesn't work, 3 and 7. And now I can think, okay, 3 and 7 could also add to negative 4 if I did a negative 3 plus 7, or sorry, negative 7 plus 3. Okay, so these are my two terms that are going to work here. So I'm going to do x minus 7 because it's a negative 7, and x plus 3 because it's a positive 3. Okay, again, if I want to, I can double check this by foiling it. So x squared plus 3x minus 7x gives me that negative 4x, and then minus 21. Okay, so let's try the next one here. So we're looking for what multiplies to negative 35 and adds to 2. Okay, so 1 and 35 I know is not going to add to 2. So the next thing I think is 7 times 5, which would add to 2 if this was a negative 5, right? So 7 plus negative 5 would add to 2 and multiply to negative 35. So I'm going to do x plus 7 and x minus 5. Okay, and again, you can switch that order, just not the signs. So I could do x minus 5 and then x plus 7. Okay, so same thing here for number 3. What multiplies to 18 and what adds to negative 9? Okay, so 1 times 18, 2 times 9, that's not going to work. 3 times 6. Okay, so now I know that negative 3 plus negative 6 will give me a negative 9, and a negative 3 times a negative 6 gives me a positive 18. So my factors are going to be a negative 3 and a negative 6. Okay, so if you want here, if you feel like you're getting the hang of it, you can pause the video and then play it again once you've done 4, 5, and 6 and kind of check yourself. I'm going to keep going. So if you want to just keep going, that's also fine. But this would be a good chance if you feel like, you know, you're understanding it to just pause it right now. Okay, so for number 4, what multiplies to 1 and adds to 2? So 1 times 1 and 1 plus 1. Okay, so x plus 1, x plus 1. Multiplies to negative 30 and adds to negative 1. So I know it's going to be 6 times 5, and a negative 6 will give me that negative 1. So x minus 6 and x plus 5. Okay, multiplies to negative 20 and adds to negative 8. Okay, so again, I'm going to go through 2 times 10, and if I make it a negative 10 plus 2, that will also give me the negative 8. Okay, so hopefully you're able to check these and get those correct. You also always want to look for GCF first because it's going to make it a lot easier. If you don't, you're going to have more trouble with these. Okay, so if there's a GCF, you first want to take that out. So like for number 7 here, we know that there's a GCF of 4, so I'm going to take that out first. And then I get x squared minus 3x, and then 4 goes into 280 70 times. Okay, so now I'm going to do a trinomial for just the trinomial without the 4 here. So what multiplies to negative 70 and adds to negative 3? Okay, so again, I'm going to kind of think about that. So 10 times 7, if I do a negative 10 times 7, that will give me negative 70. Negative 10 plus 7 would give me the negative 3. So make sure you bring down the GCF here, and then you're just going to do the x minus 10, x plus 7. Okay, so our next one here, we're going to take out a GCF of 5. So we have x squared, and that would be minus 14x. And then 245 divided by 5 gives me 49. Okay, and you don't always have to make this cheat chart. Okay, that was just to kind of show you the thought process here. But like for this one, if you feel comfortable here, you can kind of just fill it in and say, okay, what multiplies to a positive 49 and adds to negative 14? So I know that's got to be negative 7 and negative 7. Okay, so the T chart is just to kind of get you used to it, but you don't have to make that. All right, so for number 9, I'm going to take out a 3 and get x squared minus 121. And then, very exciting, we have dots. Okay, so we have difference of 2 squares here. These are both perfect squares. I love dots. Dots is my favorite. Okay, so we're going to, again, bring down your GCF. And then x minus 11, x plus 11 would give me the x squared minus 121. Okay, so again, 10, 11, and 12, maybe go ahead and pause that and try those on your own, and then you can play it again to see if your answers are correct. Okay, so here I would take out an x, get an x squared plus 3x minus 108. Okay, so I'm going to bring down my x. And again, you can make your T-chart or kind of think to yourself, okay, what would multiply to negative 108 and add to positive 3, which would be a positive 12 and a negative 9. So that would give me the positive 3 and the negative 108. Number 11, remember you want to take out a negative 2 here. So we make this a positive x squared plus 11x plus 24. Okay, so then what multiplies to 24 and adds to 11? We bring down our negative 2, and I know that 8 times 3 would work. Okay, and last one here. Again, I'm going to take out a negative 1 so I can make this first value positive. Okay, so now if I think what multiplies to a negative 12 and adds to a negative 11, we keep that negative 1 out there. And I know it's going to be a negative 12 and a positive 1. Okay, so this is factoring trinomials. And again, you can see how we use GCF. You can see how dots is still sometimes applicable here. So you just want to make sure you're not forgetting the types of factoring that we've been doing, because it's going to keep being added in and combined together to create lots and lots of fun factoring problems for you. All right, so again, if you see anything you have questions on, start and make sure you let me know during the lesson, and we'll do more fun, exciting factoring problems soon. Have a good day. Well, actually, I'll see you soon, and then you can have a good day. All right, bye.